Bismillah Rahman Rahim, your host Arif Jahangiri once again with the program Community Talk with the new episode. On June 16, 2019, Quebec National Assembly in a 75 to 35 vote passed Bill 21, which prohibit the display of religious symbol by the public sector, workers in the workplace. The controversial bill was the government's fourth attempt in the past decade to introduce religious neutrality to the province. Bill 21 has had on relegating visibly Muslim women in Quebec to second-class citizens by preventing their participation in some public sector job. A Quebec elementary school teacher who was recently forced out of her teaching position for the wearing a hijab, freedom of religion is guaranteed in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. However, is that freedom without limits? Does the question arises here that, however, this freedom is there, but it is going to be without limit. Does the state have the right to set limits on the religious practice where they collide with other values held dear by the other society members? Why two top federal parties not doing enough against this Bill 21? These are several questions because neither the conservative, neither the liberals, they are able to do something. So for discussing this important matter, we invited three honorable guests to on the Skype to discuss this important matter of Bills 21, and one of them is Imran Mia, who is a Liberal Party candidate for the next election 2022 from the Erin Mill riding, and the next one is Samir Jozi. He's the president of Muslim Canadian Forum, and he's from the Montreal, and the third one is our conservative activist Asad Deen is also with us, and he is also running a Dean and Associate accounting firm as well. Before I starting the discussion on this important topic, let's watch a small video from the NCCM, very important video, so you can understand what is in Bill 21 and why is impacting the Muslim women especially.
This is Mariam. She is a hardworking 12-year-old student in the province of Quebec. She and her classmates dream of successful careers: doctors, engineers, teachers, police officers, lawyers. Mariam herself wants to follow her passion and become a teacher. But some of her classmates, including Mariam, won't be able to see their dreams come true because of a law. Under Bill 21, Quebec's religious symbols ban, a person who wears a religious symbol cannot work in several public positions. It is a law that denies Mariam her identity if she wants to follow her dream to become a teacher. This is a fight for the dreams of our children. NCCM is on the forefront of challenging Bill 21. Together with its partners, NCCM is challenging this law in court to make sure no one ever has to choose between their dreams and their identity. We cannot allow anyone to become second-class citizens. Support us today and support their future.
Thank you, three of you, for joining the community talk to discuss on this important matter. And first, I want to go with Samir because he's from Montreal and he can understand the heat of this important matter, the Bill 21, because it's impacting a lot of religious-based community who was wearing the turban or kupa or hijabs. Our sisters are wearing hijabs, and although this bill was passed in 2019, but Samir, the recent Fatma Anwari was removed from the Chelsea Elementary School to teach. That now erupted a new discussion into the all over the country. Is not only in the Quebec, but I saw many statements from the many important politicians who start discussing recently. Yesterday, I saw the statement of Salma Zahid, the Liberal Party MP from the Scarborough Centre. I saw also Kyle Seaback statement of Conservative Party. He is, I think, from the north of the Peel. He is from there. He is MPP there. So his statement is there. So tell me something that how the Quebecan who are living there, how the Muslim community and especially sisters are impacting in the Montreal or in the Quebec?
First of all, thank you for receiving me, and this is very appreciated to I know Brother Imran. I know every one of you, and it's a pleasure really to be in this panel discussion. This subject matter is extremely important, and although there are many attempts to make it as if it is only a Quebec issue or only Muslim Quebec issues, in reality, it is much wider than this. This is all Quebecers are Canadians and they are citizens, and they have the full right to be enjoying all the rights like any other citizen in all over the county. We have to put in mind that Bill 21 did not come from vain. It did not come from nowhere. We all remember Charte de Valeur that was presented by the Pauline Marois, the PQ Prime Minister, Premier of Quebec in 2014. It was a much wider scope, covered even the health sector. In brief, Bill 21 or Law 21, it's still law now. It says the following, that there is no religious symbols are prohibited in certain sectors that are run by the government, including schools and judges and police officers. So all those sectors, the law says that any exposition of so-called religious symbol is not acceptable. Now, why we feel it in schools mostly? Because the community and our sisters are mainly working in public schools. Although the law does not mention Islam and Muslims in particular, but the matter of the fact that the victims of this law are the females, Muslim, Quebecers, and Canadians. Most of the other groups or religious groups have their own schools, and mostly their workforce works in their schools. In the Muslim community, we have tens and tens of teachers that works in the public sector, and this is one of the elements. Now, this law, and this is I need really to start underline here, says as the following, that everyone that has been hired and was working on a contract before the law went into effect, her job can be still kept, cannot be fired. So this is one of the most important factors. And this came because they want to avoid legal challenges that will be numerous to start firing people from work and because of what they are wearing or because of their beliefs. Now, this sister in particular, now what is the law saying? Any new hiring will be prohibited to have a religious symbol. This particular Fatima sister, that she was working before the law. However, unfortunately, the law itself added up by saying, even if you are hired before and no one can touch your position, but unfortunately, you cannot move from one school to another. You cannot move from a position to another. Even you cannot advance within your institution. So what happens in Quebec, in Western Quebec, the school board was in dire need of teachers, so they hired Sister Fatima, and unfortunately, we all know what happens after. The effect of this law is tremendous, not only on the Muslim community, on all those who are against any sort of targeting any segment of the society. And as you also know, that this has an effect mainly in our sisters, because they are visibly Muslims and they are visibly wearing what is called wrongly. It's a religious symbol. This is not a religious symbol. This is a religious duty.
So, Brother Samir, thank you for giving us the insight how the Quebecans and the people of Montreal are thinking about, because this is a recent effect. So, Imran, want to come to you because you're a politician and you're well connected to the society as well, right? And so, this is a very important matter that our community also understand that why the Franco-Canadian are so against the religious values and the symbols. Why they are? Because I see the same thing in the France happen. They are the first country who banned many things. And same thing we are seeing, they are following the footstep of France in the Quebec as well. So there is some historical data, I'm sure there, why these people are so against the religion.
Assalamu alaikum, Arif bhai. Thank you so much for inviting me to your program. It's good to be on the same panel as Brother Samer from Montreal. I know he does a great job, a great deal of community work. He's been doing it for a number of years. And of course, it's great to see my good friend Asad here as well. With regards to Bill 21, as Samer mentioned, this was legislated back in June of 2019, but been ongoing for a number of years, several years, I think. And I would also say that when the federal conservatives were in power under Stephen Harper, they sort of towed the same line when they came out with a ban on the niqab, and they were marginalizing the Muslim community. So unfortunately, the issue has been politicized, and Quebecers are generally very, very good people, but there's also politicians who like to divide Canadians on these types of wedge issues. So it's more of fringe elements that sort of try to divide the community and the society so that they can retain power and get reelected. Unfortunately, I think that's sort of the basis, but it has become law because of how our legal system works. As you know, this law violates the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, where everyone's free to practice their faith as they please. But there is a clause in the charter known as the notwithstanding clause that allows provincial and federal politicians to sometime override the positions that are stated in the charter. So in this case, the power has invoked the notwithstanding clause, and therefore have brought forward this. They have brought forward this legislation that is very discriminatory in nature, and it's not just attacking the Muslim community, but it's also anybody who wears a religious symbol visibly is sort of affected by this. And as you know, there's been a lot of advocacy against it by the Canadian Civil Liberties. I know NCCM has been doing a great job in advocating, and recently they were able to strike down part of the law in its sort of essence. It's a very, very un-Canadian law that needs to be struck down, and we all need to speak out against it. As an Ontario Liberal, our position has been very, very clear since Stephen DeLuca has become leader of the party. Even when he was running for leader, he had unequivocally stated his position against Bill 21. And if we were to be elected on June 2nd, absolutely make sure that nothing like Bill 21 ever happens in Ontario.
So I goes to, thank you, Imran, and the question that I want to actually find out the answer, because I know that English-speaking Canada don't have this type of issues yet. But there is always a chances that once any province is started, the other provinces start adopting as well. And but Asad, I want to ask you, because you're raised here, you take all the studies, you meet a lot of people, and why these Franco-Canadians are so against about the religion? Why is only them? Because I see that sometimes there's a white supremacist are there. There's several type of the positions are there, but not so hard. But why specifically these Franco-Canadians?
I think Franco-Canadians are unable to adapt to the reality of Canada. This is not the 1800s. This is Canada of the 21st century. I think you can see in France, and you can see amongst Quebecers, there is an element of racism in them. There's vast ignorance amongst them. They don't understand different religions. They don't seem to have a lot of respect for anything but their own culture. And obviously, they will be punished for such beliefs, okay? Because we live in a global society. Canada is going to receive millions of immigrants. Ontario's economy is going to double and maybe at this rate even triple Quebec's. And Quebec's, the prosperity of Quebecers will also be impacted because affluent immigrants who have different backgrounds, they will not just view a ban on the hijab as an attack on the Muslims. It also impacts the Jewish community. It impacts the Punjabi community. The Punjabi community also views Quebec as racist, as do Muslims, as do many other minorities, because Muslims are influential. We have many friends. I personally don't even buy anything from France anymore because I view French as being racist. I was in England recently, back in September, and a lot of the British Muslims don't want to even visit France because they feel it's just very racist and it's not a good idea to support them. Although I remind our viewers here, there are teams such as Paris Saint-Germain and many investments. A lot of Paris is owned by Arab investment houses, which is the Qatar Investment Fund, the Saudi Investment Fund, and all this. But unfortunately, this is a reality, is that the Quebecers have, seems to me, some form of a superiority complex where they're not willing to accept the diversity and embrace it. So we will have to deal with this problem the same way Black people had to deal with their racist problem. Black people were not allowed to vote. Black people were lynched. Black people were not allowed to participate in public schools. They were not even allowed to sit on buses with other people. So I think the Muslims in Quebec are now facing a very racist culture. However, there are two sides to this. I believe, like Imran alluded to, maybe 40% of them are not. I mean, I think the greater Montreal area is very diverse, very accepting. I think outside of that region, there seems to be obviously a lot of racism there. And unless you call out something for what it is, it's never going to get resolved.
Okay.
And I also remind people, I mean, if you know a little bit about the French history, France itself was ruled by a king. He was Catholic. And then Napoleon came into power and he formed a republic and he made it secular. But Napoleon was actually funded by kings in South India who were looking for support from the French king, King Louis at that time, against the British. So the Republic of France is actually indebted to Tipu Sultan's emissary, who was actually one of my relatives, who funded, in fact, Napoleon to come into power. And if you study Napoleon near the end of his life in his memoirs, he talks about how he'd like to unite most of Europe under Islam. So, and actually, France is very interesting. A lot of French intellectuals became Muslim, like Maurice Bucaille and stuff like that. And so, it's an ongoing struggle, but I think the Canadian Muslim Forum has to face a reality that they are surrounded by a very racist environment, and they will have to take lessons from other places in North America that faced it. And all the politicians from all political parties have to come together to raise the education awareness of the people of Quebec so that these positions that they hold largely are due to ignorant understanding of our faith have to be removed in time and a concerted effort with other religious ethnic minorities such as the Jewish, the Sikh, and other communities that are being impacted.
So let me go to Samer. Samer, tell me that I know that there are a lot of good politicians are there in the Quebec from the Liberal Party as well as the Federal Conservative Party. But why these two big parties, the Federal Party of Conservative Federal Party and the and the Liberal Party not put enough support, not put enough pressure to the province that they will not pass this bill, or they have to take out those restrictions that they are putting in this bill. So what do you
Yes.
think that they are doing enough?
Before I start, I just want to underline, with all respect to Brother Assad, Quebec is not as a whole a racist province. I have been in Quebec for almost all my life.
Mhm.
And the Quebec society in general is an open one. It has its uniqueness. That's what we have to put in mind. It has its uniqueness. This uniqueness, unfortunately, some political trends comes and try to exploit it. But in general, Quebec as a society, I have been here, my children were all born here and raised in Quebec, is not to compare it between what the black have faced in Europe or in the United States to what the Muslims are facing. I believe we are a bit of exaggeration, although I agree with Brother Assad, we are facing issues. We cannot deny those issues whatsoever. But to say, as to generalize, it is something that we have to be very, very careful about. I'm sorry, I don't mean, I'm not here to, I don't mean to argue at all, at all.
We
I
will
just
come
want to
back to you.
clarify that.
I give you time to clarify. Just let him finish it. Huh?
Okay, sure.
Okay, go ahead.
As per your question, I believe you mean the liberal federal and the conservative federal. That's, I believe you don't mean the local federal, local parties. As per the federal, and now we are going to talk about the uniqueness of Quebec. The most uniqueness of Quebec that our confederation, our Canadian confederation, came in a love relation. No one imposed on any part of Canada or Canada to come together. So the relationship that can bringing all the provinces together is a love relationship. This sort of relationship makes the federal government crippled in its hands. Doesn't have an open hand to talk or discuss or even tackle issues as they're supposed to be. One of the most issues that we know that is the trend of separation, or they call it sovereignty, of Quebec from Canada. So the federal governments across the history of Canada is always cautious when they come to deal with Quebec. And some politicians in Quebec, they know this weakness in the federal system that we have, and they try, unfortunately, to abuse it per se. And anything happens by the federal coming into the politics of Quebec, right away, this so-called nationalistic fire comes into the Quebec society.
But brother Samar, the nationalism is a very separate thing, right? Is nationalism is not the what I am asking here. Why? Because I feel is not only here. I feel everywhere that Franco-Canadians or the French-speaking people all over the world, they have something about the religion. They don't like religion. They don't want to involve in a religion in the politics.
Okay, brother, let me put it this way. If we want to go into the deep intellectual side of the French in France and outside, yes, they have issues with any culture that is not theirs. So this is well known. If you look at Algeria, you look at Morocco, you look at Tunisia, the British are completely different. They leave you do whatever you culturally you want to do, but politically they have the full domain over you. But this is historically. I'm talking about Canada in particular. In Quebec, there is this notion of separatism that always working inside the Quebec French society. And the federals are always worried about this particular subject. And this is why, and Brother Imran, I think he knows about this, especially when it comes to the liberal and when it comes to the conservative federal, they are very worried of getting into so much into the politics of Quebec because of this circle of, coming back to this separatism and sovereignty of Quebec. This is the main reason why they avoid getting into the subject. Having said that, this is not an excuse. Let's put it this way. All Canadians should be equal and
but
equal.
my question was Samir, my questions was that either the conservative or the federal liberals, they are doing enough actually in the Quebec to stop this bill, to work against this bill?
up to at this moment at the federal level, because you know that we have the provincial politics and federal politics inside Quebec. Inside Quebec, the federal level is the Liberal Party, is the one that domaining the all over the province or most of the province. But having said that, this is completely even. You will be surprised, Brother Ajir. You will be Arif. You will be surprised that the French, the Liberal Quebecers are different from the Liberals in Ontario, especially when it comes to Quebec issues. So because I go all over the country, as Brother Imran knows, I travel everywhere. I see two different planets of liberals. Liberals in Ontario, in Western Canada, have nothing to do with the liberal in Quebec. So why? Because the liberals in Quebec takes into consideration Quebec uniqueness, and they are very cautious in how to deal with it. So, and this apply on the conservative. Although I don't want to be politicizing matters, the conservatives, unfortunately, sometimes try to appeal to the French Quebecers. I'm sorry for the question, sovereigntists, to appeal for them for voting purposes. And as Brother Imran, we faced issues before, not nowadays, but before with the conservative, with the niqab issue, and it was a big matter in Quebec, unfortunately. So Muslim Quebecers and others in Quebec, they have to struggle day and night to keep up.
Let me ask a difficult questions to Imran, because I know that he's a politician. The politician has the problem. I know that they are sometimes very difficult to give them the straight answer. I know that. So I don't want to put you, Imran, in a difficult position. But my question is that why court was helpless to stop this bill? Why? I know there is outstanding clause was there. That's why the court is helpless. But the court, it should be give the ruling, right? There should be some room to address the specific why the if somebody, women are allowed to wear what they want to wear. We are living in a society where we have the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of everything, right? Is a charter of right that is given to us. Why there is a charter of rights and there is a bills 21? They are so much contradict to each other. How you see that there is a way to really handle this?
So I think Brother Samar really summed it up nicely. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, right? As Prime Minister Trudeau said, all Canadians are equal, whether we live in Quebec or British Columbia or Manitoba or Ontario. And as per the charter, we all have equal when it comes to our religious freedom. You know, I'm not here to defend the federal Liberals because I'm a provincial Liberal candidate in Ontario, and I've stated our position, our Ontario Liberal Party position in Ontario. Stephen DeLuca has unequivocally stated that he's opposed to Bill 21. If we were to be elected on June 2nd, we will make sure that nothing like that ever happens in Ontario. Having said that, I think the issue, as Brother Samar mentioned, the provincial, you know, I think federal Liberals, or federal government, I should say, is a little reluctant to interfere in the provincial autonomy, because also as part of the Constitution, every province has its autonomy, and feds are, regardless of which government is in power, they're reluctant to interfere in the provincial autonomous matters. So, but that is not an excuse. I think even you've seen some of the MPs from both sides, conservative and liberal, recently in the recent days, calling for intervention from our federal government. So, I think it's about time that everybody speaks with one voice and stands up for everywhere.
That's right, Imran. That everybody stand up and raise the voice. But what's at the moment I see there is no new hope of that the NCCM create a very wonderful campaign. I saw that with all the other Islamic organizations they are supporting, they are coming together. But also it raised a lot of awareness in the political arena as well, and that's why I can see that there is some sort of the new waves is coming that how to tackle this issue. So Asad, let's you want to reply that one, and I will put the first you reply that answer that you want to reply that time, and then I come back to you a new questions.
There's a reality we have to keep in mind. If you look at the trends across Europe, especially what's happened in Austria recently, and what's happening in France and other parts of Europe, they are becoming more right-leaning fascists. Okay, they call it nationalism, but underlying nationalism is that, you know, our place has to remain as is, and anybody not fitting into our way of seeing the world or whatever is not welcome. So this is a trend across Europe. That trend, I believe, is in Quebec. I think I do agree with Samer. He's being very polite about it, but the reality is that that's a premier that you guys have elected. He was elected by votes in Quebec. People like me and people of influence will punish Quebec by making sure nobody immigrates there, making sure nobody invests there, because we're not going to. Ontario is a very welcoming place for us, for Muslims. So people are moving from Quebec to Ontario and other parts of Canada. They don't want to have their kids raised up in this environment where, you know, like I have 5 daughters. Do you think I want my daughter to be raised in Quebec, having to figure out if she wants to join the police, she can wear a hijab. If she wants to go be a teacher, she has to wear a hijab. My daughter is in law school. She's going to have to worry about wearing a hijab? No. So Quebecers, thank you very much. You don't welcome us. That's fine. There's going to be millions of immigrants coming here, and they might just skip past Quebec. Already the value of Quebec homes is half of that of Ontario, and our GDP is growing so much rapidly. At one point, Montreal and Toronto were competitive. There's no competition now. If you drive from Montreal to Toronto now, you can see that, you know, Quebec is going to become soon a have-not province if it isn't for their resources. Do you think people from India who are immigrating here, or from Pakistan, or from Bangladesh, South Asians, or even Chinese or anything, they just particularly view France or, you know, the Quebec is viewed as racist, and that's a reality. And you need to take that back, Samer. And this is what people are viewing you as. Quebec is viewed as racist because of this law. And whether we want to make excuses for that, they're not racist, okay, fine. The greater area of Montreal, I agree with you. And there's a lot of people in Quebec who are not racist. I don't disagree with that. But I would say you're dealing with about 55% who are not comfortable with the hijab for whatever reason. So what that tells me for the Muslim community there is you need to come out of your positions and start engaging and educating Quebecers in general about why women wear hijab, how it's connected to the, you know, whatever, and see if they're willing to accept it. But I believe there is a struggle for Muslims in Quebec and people who wear turbans. They're not going to be allowed to wear turbans. Now, why do you think a Punjabi person, a Sikh person who wears he wears a turban, suddenly he can't work in the Quebec police force, or he can't go and represent his client and he has to take off his turban? I mean, this is ridiculous. So I don't accept Quebec's C-21. I'm calling for what it is. Within the Conservative Party, if I have any say in it, I'm going to call it for what it is. I think it's a racist law, point blank, full stop.
Asad, thank you. And Samer, so Samer, tell me that what is the danger if this law is already, implications is there and is already working out, and there are a lot of sisters whose dreams when they are very young, they want to be a teacher. We already run a video. In that NCCM video is actually showing the dream of a girl, right? And a dream of a girl is that she wants to be a teacher in a school. And when she studied and long, and then the time came when she is a teacher in a school, and all of a sudden this law come, and then the law is implemented on her, and she is no more can study in the class. So how do you think that there are some sympathy in the Franco-Canadian community as well, that they are seeing that this is wrong, or do you think that the majority is seeing this is right?
By the way, this particular subject touches me as my family. My daughter is graduating as a teacher at McGill University this semester. She is with her hijab and she will face the challenge that everyone is talking about. Actually, she will not have a chance to work whatsoever. And she has to either go and continue to master or PhD in order to have a possibility of being hired. So this particular subject about the education touches not only me as an activist, but also as my family since my daughter into this. And let me tell you, yes, there are good portion of French Quebecers that, especially the younger generation, are so much against this particular law or any other law that is discriminating, and especially against women. Okay, but unfortunately, up to this period of time, this younger generation is either doesn't is not caring about politics or doesn't have a big say within the political spectrum of Quebec, especially when it comes to the political parties of Quebec. And in particular, nowadays, the Liberal Party of Quebec is facing a lot of challenges, and its support is declining. So yes, I will not go to the extent to say that yes, French Quebecers are supporting, with all respect to all polling approaches. When you pick up the phone and you ask this following question, and I have said it to the media tens of times, and you say, listen, are you with a woman wearing a hijab because her husband or whoever is obliging her, and this is against, whatever woman's freedom, are you with this or not? So the type of question you ask, you will get the answer. So unfortunately, this is what's happening, and this is giving a wrong impression, because the same Quebecers that we know, they used to be under Philippe Couillard and the Liberal, they were against this motion. Again, if you all recall, especially Brother Imran, those were in politics in 2014. Pauline Marois came with a similar law, and she lost the elections, totally lost the elections. This is just 2014, I mean, not too many years ago. Why? Because the way that it was presented, the media that the way it was presented, unfortunately, not the way it is being presented now. So yes, the population are influenced by the media, are influenced by the way the questions are being raised. And here we are, as Quebecers, Muslims, and other groups are paying the price. Up to this moment, we have to admit, yes, the CAQ, which is the CAQ, that is the ruling Quebec, has a tremendous support, very big support, and from the population. It is not only because they are a very good party for them, no, because of the reality that the weakness of the Liberal Party at the provincial level and nowadays is facing a lot of internal quarrel. This is influencing their presence, unfortunately. And again, with all respect, we need our federal representatives at all the parties, okay, to stand up. I believe, I hope, inshallah, that after the latest event, the provincial spectrum will work much more harder to say to Quebec authorities that those are Canadians and they are humans and they deserve to be protected and dealt as such. And that's what we're hoping for the coming.
So Imran, it's wonderful that Samir, you elaborate very nicely that not all the Franco-Canadians, but there are several peoples. There are people there who are not happy with this law as well, and they are openly against this law as well. And I saw some of the videos as well today, and I saw that there are several parents who are Franco-Canadian. They are not happy when she was removed from the teaching. Fatma was removed from the teaching, so they are not happy. So Imran, you are as an Ontario, and you are a politician in the Liberal Party. How you think that Ontarian politicians should make sure that this is not widespread everywhere in Ontario as well this time? Because there's a dangers is always there. Islamophobia is on the rise there. So there is the dangers, and the People's Party of Canada, the party like that one is they are very openly against the Islam, and they are there are several Islamophobic elements are there who are supporting. And in the Conservative Party as well, there are some Islamic phobic elements are there as well. So there is a danger is there that it can be widespread not only in the Quebec, but Ontario and anywhere. So how, as a politician, as a liberal politician, you want to make sure that this should not be happening in Ontario?
You raise a very, very important question, Arif. We are in Ontario, and unfortunately, things are not all that rosy in Ontario either. We recently saw a tragic incident that took place in London, Ontario,
Yep.
where members of the Afzal family were shot to death, right? This happened in Ontario, and you're right, homophobia is on the rise. How we can make sure that this doesn't happen in a province like Ontario is to make sure that I think the strategy has to be multifold. We as Ontarians and citizens of this province have to also take responsibility, making sure we get out, we mingle with our neighbors, we make them feel comfortable. They get to know us, we get to know them, right? So that's one approach. The second approach is that we make sure that we are engaged politically at all levels. And the third most important thing is let's make sure we don't let those politicians win who create this type of division in our society. You know, they find that fringe element in our society, and that they like to sort of bank on that to get elected. So as voters and as residents of Ontario and as Canadians, we have to make sure we don't let those types of people win, and we don't let that type of narrative become the mainstream narrative. So the responsibility is upon us as well as much as it is on
And
politicians.
huge responsibility on you as well as a politician.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I commit to doing my part. Again, I reiterate the fact that the Ontario Liberal Party and Stephen DeLuca, our leader, has publicly several times stated that he opposes Bill 21, and under his leadership, we will make sure that nothing like that happens ever again. In fact, when the Liberals were in power a few years ago, we did bring in the anti-racism directorate, where these types of issues were brought forward, and strategies and solutions were put together to address. But more needs to be done. Even that anti-racism directorate initiative needs to be revived, and if we're elected again, we will make sure that it's revived and it's enhanced and it's encompassing of the recent realities, so that we could we could have a broader strategy to tackle and fight Islamophobia
Okay, Asad, very
and all
last
forms
question.
of hate.
I
All
come to
forms of
Asad.
hate, not
I
just
come to Asad.
Islamophobia, but
Imran, let me. I
all.
have a. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
So,
I would just like to.
Asad, my question. Yeah, okay, listen, question, and then you will reply. So, as I mentioned with the Imran as well, that there is an element who are in the People's Party of Canada. There is some element in the Conservative Party as well. There who are hardcore, and they are against them, and very openly Islamophobics are there, and we know that, and you also know that. So how, as a conservative activist, how you make sure that this is not widespread within the Conservative Party as well? How we control that?
Pretty simple. Ford's daughter is marrying a Muslim. Okay, so start with that. On another note, that's the truth, by the way. He came to the IMO Mosque and he announced that, and he's invited members of our Muslim community for that. That's good. That's integration. That's a good thing. The other thing is that within the provincial Conservatives, our Muslim community is very much engaged. Like, I'm engaged with all the MPs in the West End, even in the East End. We attend their fundraisers, we fundraise for them, we volunteer for them. So within the Conservative Party, we have to keep on encouraging members of our community to come forward, volunteer, donate, and be engaged, so that when these kind of situations show up, they are going to be our voice. What I would advise to my community and our people in Quebec is, if the current ruling party will not stay on forever, okay? Example, Premier Ford is completely against Bill C-21. That's on record. There was an article in the Huffington Post. Obviously, eventually that government that's in Quebec is going to fall. What the Muslim community needs to do in Quebec, in my opinion, is they need to start fundraising for the opposition. If the Liberals are weak or whoever the opposition is that is not in favor of Bill C-21, or they need to create enough individuals or candidates who are going to amend this bill to allow our sisters to practice with hijab and law. We need to start funding them. Remember, when Harper was taken out, okay, I was part of the Liberal Party and I was helping raise funds for them to kick Harper out. After I seen the performance of Trudeau and his issues on tax and all of that, I eventually left the federal Liberals because as a chartered accountant, the Conservative Party was much better for me in so many regards, in terms of values and so on and so forth.
That's our different subject.
And now the
that
federal
different subject.
Conservatives have also removed a lot of the elements that were Islamophobic and racist, including right now the campaign manager for Aaron O'Toole was Walid Suleiman, who's a Muslim, he's a lawyer. So these are great progressive things. So our brothers and sisters in Quebec should learn from that. Go and work with the opposition to this current premier, fund him, fund their party, field your candidates, and go and send them. So if there's sisters who are lawyers, make them run for legislature so that they can get elected and raise their voice in the Quebec legislature, because this government is not going to remain forever. Okay, there's going to be fault lines, they're going to have issues, and you need to prepare for the next government that comes in by financing the opposition, giving them volunteers and candidates, so this Bill C-21 can be somehow amended to accommodate all the minorities and make an alliance with all the other minority groups that are impacted. And I think that would be my best advice. So it's a waiting game, but you have to play your game.
So last word, I have 1 minute left. Samer, if you want to add something, so how can other Canadians help you?
And we're willing to help.
One of the most important elements, the same thing that we have done for Islamophobia, that we fought for many years until 2016, 17, and 18, where we start to achieve some achievement, some success per se, is to move this subject from being a Muslim subject to a Canadian subject, from a Muslim concern to a Canadian concern. As long as it is unfortunately those who are behind the law, they try to give it this image as if it is only targeting few people, a small minority segment of the society. It is not the case. It is a human issue. It is a right of every citizen issue, and I believe it should be. This is the way it should be, and we should not be in fight with anyone. Let me put it this way: it is not for the benefit of anyone to be in a fight with Quebec society or the French Quebec society in general whatsoever. It is some elements, some segments within this political spectrum that is unfortunately creating all this damage. And by getting engaged as brother Assad,
so why is Samer, the feminist movement is a very strong movement in Canada. Why these feminist movement is not helping on this important subject? Because this is a women's issue as well.
Unfortunately, if we're going to open this subject, it needs a special. But we have to say, since the victims, unfortunately, are belongs to the Muslim faith, and this is another subject now.
And I will definitely talk to you on that subject later.
Your point of view is very valid, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
But in Quebec, by the way, the Women Association of Quebec is against this law.
Question, but you should be asking it to us.
So, Imran, what you said?
Sorry, I was saying the question you asked about
feminist movement.
Feminism. You should be asking that to a sister.
Yes, definitely. That's why I keep this subject for the sisters. Next time, inshallah, I will bring some sisters here. I can add that one as well.
But I think we should have their perspective.
No, no,
For sure.
definitely,
For sure.
I will. But my time is very short, and I want to thank you, all of you, Imran as well, Samer as well as Asad, that we start discussion once again. I started actually in 2019. I did some programs on this bill 21, but unfortunately, we saw that the bill was actually passed out in June. So after that, it was challenged in the court. We know that, and in recently it was April 2021 when it was court is actually rectified some of the clauses there. I know that that the English mediums schools they are able to this law is not implicated
No,
there.
no. Can I, for a moment?
Yeah,
For a
please.
moment, the government has appealed the decision, and the English school board cannot hire Muslims, women whatsoever. Just to make sure to clarify this point, because the government, the provincial government, appealed the decision. Up to the decision now, it is up to the courts to decide later on. But the English school board cannot hire a teacher with a hijab.
Okay, so they cannot hire further. So that's where we are, and I think NCCM is trying to challenge again in the courts, and that's what they are preparing for. And there is a movement is going on from the NCCM, National Council of Canadian Muslims, is doing excellent job. And thank you once again, three of you. And inshallah, we will. This is a very important subject. We will inshallah one more time we will go through on this subject. And thank you all of you. So before we are going to end. Sister Nadia Naqvi, she is the Quebec Council of Muslim Teachers co-founder and the president. Naqvi, she sent it out in a statement today, and I want to read on the behalf of her that she mentioned in her statement that we are deeply saddened by the removal of the qualified and the able teacher from her post as a beloved third grade teacher in Chelsea, Quebec. There are no winners in the situation. The biggest losers are the children. We hope that with this situation will spread awareness of the unfairness and immorality of Bill 21. This is a very important statement because she is not the only teacher. She is not the only teacher who is suffering from this issue. There are many Muslim teachers who are removed, who are not able to really hired even in the public school anymore. So there's a lot of dreams that really scattered away from the Muslim women and the young girls, those who want to be a teacher. So it's really very sad, and I hope that federal conservative and federal liberals they are come together and try to see the immorality of this Bill 21 and try to see there are a lot of unfairness and why women are not allowed to wear the hijab, why the state want to dictate anyone that what they wear and what they not wear. So inshallah, I hope that we try our best through the community talk program that to bring the awareness to our community about the Bill 21, where the people of Quebec and the Muslim of Quebec are really suffering by this bill. Inshallah, Arif Jahangiri will come back to you in the next week with the next episode with the new topic. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi barakatuh.
Do you know why professionals like you work with accountants like us? Because at Dean & Associates, we treat your business like our own and give you the best tax advice according to your specific situation. Dean & Associates' experienced CPAs and tax accountants have helped hundreds of clients and successfully managed their accounting and tax scenarios. With over 45 years of combined experience, Dean & Associates Accounting is a leading choice for incorporated professionals, small to medium-sized businesses, death and estate taxes, U.S.-Canada cross-border taxation, audits, reviews, and other assurance engagements, profit, non-profit, and registered charities, CFO services, and non-resident tax matters. Whether you need CRA and IRS representation or you're looking for a leading-edge tax strategy, we would be most pleased to help you at our 5 convenient locations across Ontario. Call Dean & Associates Accounting today at 647-273-3094 or visit deanassociates.ca.
आपका कोई भी कार एक्सीडेंट होता है तो आपको एक बेहतरीन लॉयर की जरूरत होती है और हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं चैंपियन डेविड हिमोफार्ब।
Hi, I'm David Himmelfarb, managing partner of Himmelfarb Brzezinski LLP. We are personal injury lawyers in Toronto, Brampton, all over the GTA. And we speak your language. We have a wonderful community liaison, Anjum Qureshi.
आपका कोई भी कार एक्सीडेंट होता है हमें कॉल करें 416-570-0157।
Thinking of buying, selling, or investing in real estate, whether it be residential, commercial, or pre-construction, Arshad Bhatti and his team of professionals can help. We have guaranteed allocations in high-rise and low-rise pre-construction projects in and around the GTA. Call Arshad Bhatti at 416-300-5600. That's 416-300-5600 or register at arshadbhatti.com.
The law professionals at TM Law, providing professional services in the GTA in the areas of civil litigation, criminal defense, family matters, and real estate. Serving the community in English, Punjabi, Hindi, and Urdu. For more information, call Tahir Majid, barrister and solicitor at 647-838-4773 or you can visit tahirlaw.ca.
जिंदगी खर्च हो जाती है अपनों के लिए रकमें बनाने में, हमें अपना बना लो थोड़ी रकम बचाने में। आज ही कांटेक्ट करें इंश्योरेंस बाजार के ऑफिस अपनी ऑटो, होम और लाइफ इंश्योरेंस के लिए 4168171313 या विजिट करें www.insurancebazar.ca। आपकी बचत और आपके मुस्तकबिल का मुहाफिज इंश्योरेंस बाजार।
Since 1993, MWC food banks have provided individuals and families with non-perishable food, halal meat, and essential household items. We have a special focus on the needs of our children. Over 10,000 families across Canada rely on MWC food banks to supplement their food requirements. We serve in Scarborough, Mississauga, and in First Nations communities in Ontario, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. Your generosity can literally change lives. It's time now, more than ever, to look after your neighbor. Charity starts at home. Please donate generously to Muslim Welfare Canada Emergency COVID-19 Food Fund. Call 1-866-754-3111 or visit mwcanada.org.
जो खरीदें मिल्टन से ही खरीदें।
મિલ્ટનમાં નાના વેપારીઓના દુકાનમાં ખરીદી કરી બિઝનેસ આપો।
মিল্টনে আসুন, স্থানীয় দোকানে বাজার করুন।
تسوق محليا في ملتن।
தேசியத்தை அகைன் மில்டன் வலின் படுகா
உங்களோட வீட்டுக்கு தேவையான பொருட்களே மில்டன்லயே வேண்டுங்க।
मिल्टन ही जानते हो कि मिल्टन ही खरीदारी करो।
मिल्टन में रहते हैं, मिल्टन में खरीदारी कीजिए।
Team Farhan Mortgage Solutions designed for you. 15-year experience of mortgage services, customized mortgage solutions as per your need, commercial, residential, construction and agricultural mortgage, our lowest mortgage rate.
At Team Farhan, we're here for all your mortgage needs. टीम फरहान को एक दफ़ा खिदमत का ज़रूर मौका दीजिएगा. And this is my personal promise to you, you will not be disappointed.
At Team Farhan, we have a mortgage solution designed for you. 416-569-9294 or log on to www.teamfarhan.com.
मस्जिद नूरुल हरम एक शानदार रूहानी तामीराती मंसूबा. माशाल्लाह वर्ल्ड इस्लामिक मिशन कनाडा खुशी से ऐलान करते हैं कि मस्जिद नूरुल हरम की तामीर का काम शुरू हो गया है. इस प्रोजेक्ट का डिजाइन और तफसीलात आप यूट्यूब पर मस्जिद नूरुल हरम ओकविल टाइप करके देख भी सकते हैं. इस शानदार रूहानी मरकज की तामीर में माली ताउन करके इसकी तकमील में हिस्सेदार बनिए. डोनेशंस के लिए कॉल करें 9052571342 या WIMcanada.com पे लॉग इन हो.
I help clients with their legal protection, but I haven't done any estate or tax-free retirement planning for myself.
With the recent changes, I wish I could minimize taxes and plan for a tax-free retirement income.
For over 18 years, Zahid Syed of Arush Financial has been giving business owners and professionals sound advice on tax reduction, life and health insurance, and estate planning strategies.
Act now, I can help.
If you are looking for an honest, dependable, and trustworthy auto repair facility, consider Z Auto Center for your foreign and domestic vehicles. Here at Z Auto Center, we pride ourselves in being professional, reliable, and affordable. Our certified technicians have years of experience working on all types of vehicles. Special packages for Uber, Lyft, taxi, and driving school car safety inspection. Winter, summer, and all-season tire packages available. Best selection of used cars for sale. We are family-owned and operated business located at 3670 St. Clair Avenue East, just east of Midland Avenue in Scarborough. Call us today at 416-462-3050 or visit zautocenter.com.